Today we've got the official 2024 presidential prediction for the month of September. This is a huge challenge, and I know a lot of people are probably just going to skip to the end of the video to see the map, but it's important to note that this is trying to project ahead a couple of months to Election Day. This is not necessarily how I think it would go right now. Now we'll do a little bit of background information, but I've said a lot of what I have to say about both of these two in previous videos. So while I cover that, let's fill out the obvious safe states, and these are expected to be over a 10-point margin. So as I spent time thinking about each state, I try to use a variety of factors. Of course, the polling is going to have some weight, but it's also going to be the past polling, the trends, the national environment, the key issues, the personalities, and how they've run their campaigns. And I'm going to say up front that I do think this could go either way. I've read tons of comments on my own channel and some other places, and some people think that they're convinced it's going to go one way or the other. It is easy enough to make a case for Harris winning it. It's also easy enough to do the same for Trump. From my point of view, it seems like a lot of people have a select few stats or metrics they like to focus on while completely ignoring some of the others. I think the fairest thing to say is it's going to be close and it could go either way. Both sides have strengths and weaknesses. I could go on and on about both, but the strength for Harris is she's not Donald Trump and she's not Joe Biden. She's had newfound enthusiasm, and the polling has reflected that in most states and nationally. But some of her weaknesses are she's the party in power, and that party is viewed unfavorably. Also, during her time as vice president, she was viewed as unpopular, so much so that there was a time where it looked like Biden could not step aside because Harris would be just as, if not more, unpopular. Also, I think she has issues with authenticity and actually connecting with voters, and she didn't really have any success in 2020 when she ran for president, and she also did not really run this time and get any votes in any primary. Now, on the other side, Donald Trump's strengths are he's not the party in power. A lot of voters are looking for change. Many voters are nostalgic for the Trump economy pre-COVID. Trump comes off as unfiltered and at least a jolt to the system. Now, some of Trump's weaknesses are he already was in office. A lot of people think it was a circus. Then there's also a negative view of his role in January 6th. Plus, abortion is going to be his big weakness. And I always said, even when Trump was leading in many of the polls, once he comes back into the spotlight, then his numbers could come down as the election gets closer. There's a lot more there for each side, but now that we've got the safe states filled in, I don't think there's anything super controversial there. I do think Alaska is going to be over 10 for Trump, but there are going to be a lot of other states that are borderline, lean likely or likely safe. Your map is going to look a little bit different. So let's go down to the likely states, and these are expected to be between a 5 and a 10-point margin. For Kamala Harris, she's going to get New Mexico. She's also going to get Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. That one's at about 5 to 6 points. She's also going to get Minnesota. She's got her running mate, Tim Walz, who's the governor of this state. I think the safer assumption is it's going to boost her there a little bit. That's going to get it over 5 points. It could even be up to 10 points. So we'll put that at likely. Then in the Northeast, she's going to get Maine at large. Then next door, New Hampshire is also going to be over 5 points. And finally, we've got Virginia. Last time this was about 10. This time it's going to get down under 10, and it's going to be about 7 to 8. Now we do the likely states for Donald Trump. He's going to get Iowa and he's going to get Ohio. These are actually both high single digits, at least 8 points, could easily get over 10 at the end, but for now I'm going to leave them at likely. Then in the northeast corner, we've got Maine's 2nd congressional district. This is another one that could get over 10. I have seen the polling here. I saw the one with Harris leading in this 2nd district. That to me seems unreasonable in the end, so Trump is going to get that by over 5. Then we're going to go south into Texas. The trends here have been toward the left, so it could get more narrow in the end. It's a possibility, but for now I think it's going to be somewhere between about 6 and 7.5 points for Trump. Finally, we'll give him his home state of Florida. That one is also going to be likely. Now we can do the more competitive states, and we'll go through these one by one. Lean are going to be under 5 points, but more than 1 point, and tilt are going to be 1 point or less. But first, I'm going to start in North Carolina. This is one that seemed like it was going to go toward Trump rather comfortably. Now Harris has tightened it up. She's even leading in some of these polls. There's a lot of different factors here. I think Trump could be slightly underestimated here. Could Harris win it in the end? Yeah, it's a possibility. But for the time being, I have it as just over 1 point, about 1.1 to 1.2, and it's going to go leans for Trump. Now let's go to the other end of the country, into Nevada. This is one that went to Biden by a lean margin last time. I've heard Republicans say it's trending toward the right. That might be the case. It might not be enough to flip this time, but it could also go back toward the left. The no tax on tips thing is a big deal in this state. A lot of working class voters in Clark County. It's also unknown how much of a gain Trump could make with Hispanic voters in places like the Rio Grande Valley and in the Las Vegas area. I think they're up for grabs, and like every one of these states, I think they could go either way. In this state, I tend to think the polling might slightly underestimate the Democrats, but for right now, I think the state is going to go a little bit toward the right, but not have enough to flip. So Harris is going to get it by about a 1 point tilt margin. Next door in Arizona, here's a state that's trended toward the left in recent elections. The Trump brand is just not well received in the Maricopa County suburbs. However, immigration is a key topic here that does tend to favor Trump. So of course, I think it's going to to be very close. At the end, you've got to make a decision, and I went with a tilt for Trump. Now let's go to the Rust Belt, Wisconsin. All the Rust Belt polling has been pretty close, within about a couple of points. In this state, Trump has been notoriously underestimated by the polling. Again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but I think it's at least a little bit more likely that there could be a small underestimation of his support. He does have some more room to expand in the driftless area. Harris could also make gains in the suburbs. Back in the midterms, after the Supreme Court abortion decision, they re-elected Republican Ron Johnson for the Senate and Democrat Tony Evers for governor. It doesn't really get much more purple than that, so it's pretty much a coin flip, but in the end, I gave it to Trump by a tilt margin. Next door in Michigan, this is a similar story. Trump could be underestimated here again, we just don't know. I'm not relying on a 3 or 4 point underestimation of his support. There's a lot of factors here such as the union support, the Arab American support. How much is Trump's messaging going to resonate this time in those rural red counties? Is Harris going to do better than Biden in this state? It's all up for debate, but I do see it as being slightly bluer than Wisconsin, so I do have it going to Harris by a narrow tilt margin. Then we've got Pennsylvania. It's another total coin flip. I could understand putting it either way. Could Trump make more gains in Philadelphia itself? It's a possibility, but could Harris also make more gains in the suburbs? That's also something to take a look at. You've also got J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, who's from nearby Ohio. That's something that could provide a little bit of a boost in the Rust Belt. I'm sure Tim Walz thinks he's going to be able to do the same. This is very close, but in the end, for the time being, I went with a tilt for Trump. Finally, the last state is Georgia. This one I think gave me the most hesitation out of all the states. The trends here in the Atlanta suburbs have certainly been away from the Trump brand. Republicans have also taken losses in some key Senate races here. The big thing going for Trump here is Governor Brian Kemp did win re-election here by a likely margin. And the biggest issue of inflation in the economy, those do favor Trump. So before Harris, it did look like it was going toward Trump. Now with Harris, it does look like it's tightened. For now, I think this is going to be just about 0.1 or 0.2, and it's going to go tilt for Trump. So that's it. The final total comes out to 291 for Trump, 247 for Harris. And like with anybody else's prediction, we're all pretty much just making stuff up. I've said at the beginning, this is totally up for grabs and could go either way. I don't think it's enough to just say that Democrats have overperformed in special elections. Trump is dangerous, abortion, that's going to ignite Democrats, and Trump can't win this thing. I also don't think it's fair to say that just because of inflation and immigration and the polling generally underestimating Trump in the past is going to mean that he's going to win for sure. There's plenty of material for each side to be excited as well as concerned about. I do think Harris could do better with black voters in the Sun Belt, but at the same time, I would expect her to do worse with blue-collar, white working-class voters in the Rust Belt. Harris's best bet is going to be focused on populist economics as well as abortion. Trump's best bet is going to try to not sound only like a cut taxes type of standard country club Republican. He's got to talk about immigration. He's got to talk about change. He's got to at least protect Social Security and Medicare and focus on some more populist cultural issues. He's trying to strike the right balance on abortion, but that issue is always going to favor the Democrats. Same thing with immigration favoring the Republicans. It looks like Harris might have tried to change too many of her views from 2020. I think that, along with not doing as many unscripted and sit-down interviews as Donald Trump, could be something that's going to catch up to her. Her honeymoon period could last all the way through the election, but I would expect it to come down at least 1 point or so. The turnout Trump is going to get is completely unknown. We know he was totally underestimated in 2016, pretty much by everybody across the board. But since then, he's older, and a lot of people are really tired of his antics. But he is going to be the change candidate. A lot of voters are not satisfied with the way things are going, so that could be an opening for Trump. There's been so many changes so far this election, it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen. There's bound to be an October surprise. We're not exactly sure what the national environment is going to look like yet, but the big battle is going to be for turnout as well as independents and in the suburbs. All the other economic and cultural issues are going to be there with manufacturing, unions, healthcare, guns, free speech, identity politics, crime, etc. Most of the issues do seem to favor Trump, but that's not necessarily enough for him to win the White House. Again, I don't specifically just go by the current polling. It's going to get some weight for sure, but this is going to be projecting ahead 2 months. So I don't want to go on about this too long. It easily could go in either direction. We'll try to update it next month and then right before the election. There's a lot of things to watch for over the next month, including the debate in Trump's sentencing. We're going to follow it, but for now, this is the prediction as of early September. So let me know in the comments, do you mostly agree with this map, or would you change 1 or 2, maybe 5 or 6 of these states? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.